To start with this training, the first thing I would like to start is discussion about projects. Project, as we all know, it's nothing but a temporary endeavor taken to create unique. Anybody want to speak up? Okay. I hope the screen is visible to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the moment if you see any difficulties, please ping on chat or just speak up so that I would know. Being first session, probably I would not remember everybody's name, so we'll try to go ahead with that. So I'll just start a discussion. How many of you, like, I see a mix of people who are students and who are professionals who are coming back after a break. So anybody would like to share the experience working on a project or a live project where they have worked earlier? Because see, project is not only in software industry, it could be anywhere, be it construction, manufacturing, electrical. So project could be anything. And it's just that every project will have one starting point and one ending point. And on a temporary basis, or say for a period of time, you start a project and you want to achieve certain goals with it. So when an organization, they start a project, they want to achieve some business goals, objectives, and to achieve them, they work on those projects with certain plan, design, then how they execute. There would be teams who will work on it, and then they monitor and control those projects to achieve their business goals. So anybody would like to share their experience working on any of their project in past, or if they're working on it currently?
Hi, Praveen. This is Dipali.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to share an experience working with one of my projects. It was with Citigroup in Tampa, Florida. I was working as a business analyst, and we were a team of 6 analysts. And our project was to implement Oracle financials for the Latin American countries, which involved Mexico. So I was a part of the Mexico implementation. So we basically started with the requirement analysis and understanding what the is-as process. And then from there, working as a team, we conducted interviews with the consultants in the Mexico team. And
Mm-hmm.
the basis of the interview, we did did a short prototype of what it is going to be, how it's going to look, what will be our technical requirements, which we were on communication with the technical team, also the development team, to see if it's feasible enough. So that how, and then it was all testing and end-to-end cycle to the production support.
Okay, yeah, great. So what kind of business improvements or the organizational level benefits were part of the project? If I talk about on a wider scale, what you were trying to
For the
achieve?
Latin American, basically, City uses Oracle R12, and the Latin American countries, they had a legacy system. They were not using Oracle, so we had to find a budgeted amount, like, because we were constrained on the budget. So how to conjoin the legacy system with City. So that's how it was, like, basically streamlining the processes. So it was saving City a lot of money, and also the team in Mexico, since, everybody cannot afford working with Oracle.
Right. So
So
just
that's why we were just basically working on the legacy system and how to um, join it with City's system, all the interfaces.
right. Well explained, Dipali. Thank you. And see, this is on a generic level, this has been a trend. A few years back, people started moving on from legacy system to certain automated application. And now maybe in future, we'll see a lot of applications moving on to mobile application. This has been development and a phase in software industry, how it is. I would request people to go on mute to avoid echo and for benefit of others. And if you have to share any experience, yeah, we all would be happy to know that. Anybody want to share their experience? Okay. So as Dipali explained, in this was a particular scenario where basically an organization is looking to move from legacy application to more organized, structured Oracle application. It could be Oracle in this case. However, any organization who's looking to move on from legacy application can move to any software solution. So basically, movement from legacy applications mean more optimized process, saving more turnaround time, so that the organization benefits, because every organization works to basically increase their profits and how they can improve on existing things. So what Dipali explained was a perfect example of a software model where basically you're moving from legacy application to a more you can say industry best practices application, Oracle being one of the major companies to implement those solutions. So moving ahead, why a project is initiated, as Dipali explained in our example, and to any company who's looking to initiate any kind of project, basically they either want to cater to market demands, tackle competition, or be it healthy competition to improve on their existing organization goals, increase their market share, regulations, because many times regulatory body would impose certain changes due to which you need to initiate those projects, comply with regulations, competitive edge. Everybody in the industry, they want to excel in whatever field or domains they're working on, so they implement projects to kick off their objectives so that they can move ahead. And not only in software industry, like a very common example could be like building your own house, could be a project also, a very plain and simple example for it. But yeah, on a software development, initiation of projects, this these are the primary reason why projects are initiated. And whenever you're working on projects, there are different teams and resources available. So resources could be your software applications and what all tools you use for projects. And second part is the teams involved. And for every project, you'll see a project manager. So project manager is a guy who's basically face of the project, who has the ownership to deliver those projects, and for anything he's answerable. So anybody who has worked as a project manager or worked closely with a project manager would like to discuss or share what a project manager role was in their project which they have worked, and how project manager managed various aspects of a project. Because see, if we go by definitions, probably it will make the session monotonous, so make it interesting. Anybody would like to share their experience while working with a project manager, not only as a BA but even as different profiles? In every project you work with a project manager, so anybody would like to share with that? Please don't wait for others to speak. Anybody can speak up, because the more you share, the more you learn.
Hi, it's Patrick here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Patrick. Yeah, yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
basically, I was actually working with a project manager at my last company. We installed a new section for it was a children's play center, and we installed a new area for the babies from 0 to 3. So that was a undertaking of closing down the site and doing the whole project and coordinating with different companies and making that happen within just few days.
Okay, so project manager was directing, showing directions, what you have to do, and how things have to be implemented.
Yeah, basically the project manager was directing as well as making sure everything was going to plan, planning, making sure everything was in time and it happened according to our budget and as well as our targeted time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else would like to share?
Hey Praveen, just a question.
Yeah.
Is a Scrum Master role kind of very closely related to a project manager role?
No. See,
Okay.
in a typical scenario, though comparing project manager, business analyst, and a scrum master. These are three different roles. And depending on a budget of a project, say if you're working on a very large scale project where you have various teams working on it, then probably a project manager would be managing more than one team. And a scrum master is basically who will be managing one small Scrum team. For the benefit of audience, Scrum team could be between 5 to 7 working on particular task, and Scrum Master would be the person who will be taking charge to dividing user stories and what work is to be done by individual team members. But a project manager can manage more than one Scrum teams. So if you're an organization with lot of budget and big projects, probably one project manager can have multiple Scrum Master under him, managing the plan of those Scrum teams and what project guidelines or roadmap every Scrum team has to achieve. But Scrum Master
Okay.
has, I would say, 60 to 70% similarities of a project manager. However, his main duty is to take care that his Scrum team is working to the guidelines given to them. And since they work in sprints, say 2 or 3 week sprint, so what is to be achieved in those 2 weeks is the primary goal of a Scrum Master.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And describing more in detail, basically a project manager would be an interface and who would coordinating between customers, senior management, his own team, and the developers who are doing the development task in a typical IT industry scenario. So if as you can see, a project manager would not only manage the cost, he'll be the communication link, he'll he'll try to measure the quality of the project and the quality of development. Suppose in a development project, what quality is being delivered, and on a day-to-day basis he will seek status from his teammates what its project needs are, because he will give you the direction when a group of people is working. They always need guidance and a direction shown by somebody, because he is the person who's end of the day answerable to the higher management or the business teams. So he has to make sure that his team or the development team is working in line with the business goals and objectives given to them. And there, the role of a business analyst comes in, who is working in line with the project manager to make sure one part of uh, project delivery and business needs are met. Because a BA, a business analyst, would take care of more business requirements and what is to be implemented. So moving ahead, we will. I'll just request people to go on mute if they are not speaking, so that we are less disturbance. So after project manager, in my opinion, business analyst is the most important guy, because if you see a lot of research papers about projects failing, or it's not my opinion, basically a lot of research has been done which states that 80 to 90% of projects fail because either the team was unable to understand the business needs or the requirements were not captured properly. So with that kind of research available, we know that business analyst is one role which requires a lot of focus, and you have to closely work with the business and to understand requirement needs, because if requirements are not captured properly, the project can miss the basic needs. Or when we talk about business rules which are to be implemented, if you miss those business rules, then probably the end product would be something which you perceive and might not cater to the final requirements. In introduction, few people mentioned that they have worked as a business analyst. So anybody would like to share their experience as a business analyst and what kind of roles they had performed? Because if we go by definition, see, it's pretty simple. Uh, a set of tasks, knowledge areas, techniques you work to determine a solution for a business problem. And there are lots of business problems, but not everybody can solve those business problems. So anybody would like to share their real-time experience, how their role as a business analyst helped to solve a business problem? Okay, not your experience, but if anybody would like to share, if they have seen other business analysts working on various projects, or anything what they know about business analysts, what role he performs.
Hi, my name is Sagar,
Yeah, Sagar, go ahead.
and so I think what the business analyst does is mainly they look at the business and they identify, okay, so right now the business is following all these techniques, and by following these techniques, the outcome is this. But so in order to improve the outcome to match the company needs, the business analyst he like looks at the entire process, finds possible loopholes, or finds areas where he or she can improve them in order to improve the overall efficiency of the business, so that it more closely matches the requirement of the business or the company.
Yeah, pretty much in line. So see, if I talk about business analysis or business analyst, when this all started, why people started hiring business analysts, or I would say why they are paid more in industry, because when projects started failing, many people started identifying the reason for project failures. And when it came to business needs and understanding, many people who had worked in, say, one particular organization or a process for a number of years, who are kind of SMEs, subject matter experts, they moved on to become business analysts, because since you work on particular project or a process, you become an expert on that. And then you start analyzing things better than others. So that person, once he takes up a role of a business analyst, then he'll understand what on a larger scale business would need. But later on, it's not only about understanding those business needs and requirements. Business analyst has very important role also to play when it comes to communicating what is to be delivered. Because see, only by understanding what a business scenario or a business needs are, until unless you communicate well with other stakeholders or with your own development team, then it is not going to help. So business analyst is not only the person who will be have the set of knowledge and techniques, but he'll try to implement it, because until unless those implementation parts are missing, you will not be able to achieve those business needs. So if I compare project manager and business analyst, they are pretty much similar, but yes, business analyst is more focused towards business needs, requirements. You gather requirements to set of techniques you use to communicate. It could be from a phone call to emails, from discussions, brainstorming sessions, interviews. These are techniques how you try to gather requirements with your stakeholders. You communicate with them. And once you have those requirements, the most important part for a business analyst would be to document them. And while you're documenting, then your documentation skills with using a lot of flow charts, flow diagrams, and once you document those things with use cases and diagrams, then you go with these documents for sign off, because until unless in a project scenario you validate those requirements with somebody who's a stakeholder, they are not going to get implemented. So after understanding business needs, you document it well with using various techniques, and once you have the sign off, then in later part of software development, when it goes to development team who will refer those documents to develop solutions, then you actively get involved as a business analyst on those individual use cases or user stories to get your development cycle going at a faster pace. And whenever developers will have confusion, clarifications, you then work as a liaison between your development team and stakeholders. You seek clarifications, and that is how a project moves ahead and what business analysts would actively do. So, as we discussed, business analysts work as a liaison between stakeholders. He will elicit requirements, analyze them, because when you are taking requirements from business stakeholders, they might not understand how solution is going to be implemented. So probably they'll tell you 10 things, you have to analyze them, you have to negotiate with them, and then see out of those things what could be implemented and what would be the right solution. So with your experience and analysis skills, you need to analyze those requirements coming in and then do the proper documentation with using your own experience. So anybody, again, I would seek more inputs from the audience. Anybody would like to share their experience as a business analyst?
Hi, this is Sagar again.
Yeah.
I haven't worked as a business analyst, but I did an internship as a financial analyst. So I mean, I think like they are like almost the same, because what I used to do is that like my boss, he used to like give me certain requirements. He used to tell me that, okay, so this is our need, we need to we need to make this kind of product for our clients. So basically what I used in my internship is I used to like look at the requirements my boss had, and then I used to like find different types of funds or stocks that closely match that closely match the needs. So I don't know like if this is the same thing or somewhat similar, but
Yeah,
like
it's
this is
it's
my experience. But
yeah. Thanks for sharing your experience. It's pretty similar, but as you said, your boss used to communicate those requirements to you. But say in a project scenario where you're implementing a solution or you're working as a team, then probably you'll have multiple stakeholders, not only one boss, basically somebody from business, somebody at a different location. Because see, I'll share one of my experience. I was working on a project where for one of the top banks in the world, they were implementing a solution. Uh, they already had a core banking solution, what they say. Since I've worked primarily into financial services and banking domain, I'll pretty much give you examples from those industry. So in a scenario where a bank was trying to implement something which would work as a portfolio management, basically what funds and what investments a customer has to manage it properly. But for a global bank, it's not only about implementing a solution, say in America or certain part of the world. Since they work globally, it has to implement it in various locations or regions. So when you gather requirements, you have stakeholders from various regions, you communicate with them all, and then you try to tell them that yes, since this software solution would be not region specific, it would be used by everyone. So these are the things which could be implemented. So then you talk about, because see, in any part of the world, customer for a bank would remain same, and any bank would try to gather requirement as a customer. So when you're working as a business analyst, you should put yourself in a customer's shoe, that yes, what a customer need would be if you're using any application in a bank for a customer. So portfolio management is basically, if I'm seeking my investment, I would like to see multiple products which I can buy and what I have already bought, maybe a graphical representation of it, so that I don't need to go into minor details. Because see, everybody uses a bank account, but yeah, some banks have very, I would say, appealing screen, charts, descriptions about your investment. So that makes easier to understand what you're doing. So, whenever you're implementing or working as a business analyst, you should always see yourself as an end user, and then try to analyze those requirements. Because if I talk about the business teams, they are more focused into budgets and how certain solution would be implemented. But when you are working as a business analyst, you should seek how an end user would use your application, because that is where the success lies. If you gather requirements, if solution is delivered, and if it is not meeting end users requirement, probably it would not be of best use. So when we talk about business analysis, BABOK is one business analyst body of knowledge. If you seek more information on Google about it, it's nothing but a society who's working to basically share best practices across the globe of a business analyst, and they have categorized into knowledge areas, 6 knowledge areas they talk about. And during our training sessions, we'll discuss more in detail about these knowledge areas and how a business analyst would work. But this BABOK would help you to basically understand more in detail about those knowledge areas and how what tools and techniques are used. Because when you're working as a business analyst, if you see, every business analyst will do planning and monitoring, enterprise analysis, which is more of an organization perspective of analysis, where you're seeking what kind of results and benefits an organization would gain. And they talk about these knowledge areas. Probably this would be too early to discuss about these knowledge areas, but yes, I just wanted to give you a feel of it, so that later on when we talk more in detail, we can link those knowledge areas back to what Baywalk describes and says. So,
Praveen, I had a question before we move on.
yes, please.
Well, you just said that the business analyst needs to think from the user's perspective. Like, whatever information I read so far, it sounds more like the business analyst needs to be a liaison between the IT and the business for the and the business department. But when you said about you from the user endpoint, is the business analyst also involved with the user testing? Like, do they also do user testing of any application maybe that's to be implemented? Are they part of it?
Yeah, good question. Because see, business analyst is a very flexible role, and depending on your project scenario and situations, you could be involved in multiple phases of software development lifecycle, and the user acceptance testing is also part of it. So business analyst could be involved in certain projects, totally depending on your what your project needs are. And when I say about thinking from the perspective of end user, it's only when we talk about implementing any solution. Because see, with my experience, what I've seen, business or I would say stakeholders, basically they want to implement everything, but business analysts need to channelize what could be implemented. And when you talk about being a liaison between development and stakeholders, you need to communicate those requirements so that both match and both work on same level. But yes, once product is delivered, probably if you want to excel more as a business analyst, my experience has been, if you just start thinking from the end user perspective, then probably you would be able to analyze more, and it's just a helping hand. Not necessarily that you have to always do that part, but yes, see, if you're working as a team to develop any solution, and if the end user is not happy with it, so my experience has been it goes through a lot of iterative cycles of change requests and improvements. So this has been my personal experience, but yes, not necessarily every time business analyst would be involved in UAT, but the role could be flexible depending on your project and what kind of budget you have in that project and the team size. But business analyst is a pretty flexible role. It could be business analysis plus testing involvement. In certain projects, business analysts work very closely with the development team, and many times the techno-functional business analyst in pretty much certain scenarios, they work very closely with the development team. They not only prepare those functional specification documents, they are also involved in doing technical specification documents and preparing those documents for the development team. It's a pretty flexible role, and primarily it involves a lot of flexibility and depending on and the projects. So we'll move ahead and we'll discuss more about these things, because see, as a business analyst, you prepare documents and your project requirements could differ from, say, a typical bank scenario to implementing any online retail solution. So we'll talk more about it. Probably it would answer your question. So if you want to know more about business analysts, these are few links you can refer, and you don't need to bother about these presentations. This would be shared with you in our knowledge base, so there you can access these links later on. Excuse me. So we would like to now compare more. As I said, business analyst and project manager could perform similar activities, and they go hand in hand and they work on similar tasks. So when we say business analyst is the liaison between stakeholders and the development team, project manager is more responsible on a higher level, where he'll be managing all the resources, preparing plans, and see if project is completing on time, you're in line with budget, and your quality, what you're delivering, is met or not. And business analyst would more focused on the solution part, how those solutions are getting implemented, gathering requirement, policies, performance, and how you're managing. So if you compare more of business analyst and project manager, see, coming to this slide, a business analyst would work on various type of analysis, enterprise analysis, planning management, and if you compare with project manager, Project manager would be working more on integrating the entire resources and project needs, scope management, what is to be delivered in a project and what is the scope of a project, in what time frame a certain deliverable is to be delivered, and what is the cost associated with it. When we talk about cost, it comes to the number of people involved, how many people would be involved in achieving a certain goal or certain project. When you do project planning, then you decide, say, 5 developers, 2 BAs, or 1 BA, and other stakeholders. So this sizing and cost management is role of a project manager. And if you compare it with the business analyst, he will do the requirement analysis, documentation, communicating those requirements, and while implementing, tracing those requirements at, because when once requirements are captured, it is very important to trace those requirements. And while you're tracing those requirements, project manager would continuously keep a track on the time frame of delivering those requirements. So what are the skills required to be, or I would say the ideal skill set for a project manager and a business analyst? If you see, they are pretty much similar. For any good business analyst, it's very important to have good communication skills, understanding of software development cycle, how a software is developed and delivered, what it goes through, negotiation, and I would say rapport with your stakeholders, because when you're working with a team, it is very important that your team has the confidence in you that what you're doing will deliver to the organizational needs or what your team is requesting. Strong interpersonal skills and client management. When you work as a business analyst and when we say your liaison between stakeholder and the development team, it is very important to have a good rapport, and basically you should go well with your stakeholders. What they are trying to tell you, you should understand, and this you develop with time. And all those techniques of interviews, brainstorming session, focus group, walk through sessions, these are the sessions where you closely work with stakeholders, and there you try to build a rapport so that as popularly people say, 75% of communication is non-verbal. So while building rapport with your stakeholders, you try to understand what they are trying to achieve. And in many scenarios, maybe your stakeholders are situated in a different location. There probably you also prepare a lot of questionnaire kind of questions you want to, because gathering requirement is a continuous task while you're working as a business analyst. So you need to apply all those techniques so that you end of the day deliver the business requirements. Anybody would like to share any thoughts on the skills required for a business analyst? What you think a business analyst should have or should not have when we talk about business analyst skills?
Yes, I guess I have a question about. Hello?
Please?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes. Yeah, I hear you now.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead with your question.
This is Aruz. I'm wondering about negotiation consensus building aspect, which goes hand to hand with the other skill, which like one of the functions of the business analysis in one of the previous slides, when it's mentioned that BAs have to be able to provide solutions for future action, something like that. I was wondering, my understanding of BA is that they work in a team. There are several BAs, correct?
Yes, partially correct, because I'll just break your question into two parts, if I understood. First part was you wanted to understand about negotiation and consensus building, and
Yeah, what is the actual power that BA has for negotiating with stakeholders? If I am one person, one BA, I can understand that I will have significant influence as well as an increased level of negotiation skills. But if I work as one of many BAs, then how important it becomes to be a good negotiator. Because in the end, I have to go with the team, correct?
Correct.
I have to be more. I have to be a team member. These skills that I see, they more emphasize like go towards like leadership skills. But in actuality, if I work as a team member, and I think that's how it is in real world, then I feel it's more important for me to be a good team player.
Yes, to answer your question, see, it's very important to be a team player, but what situation you are explaining and is, I would say, when you're working as a group of business analysts for a project or say on a large scale project, because whenever you have a group of business analysts working together, it's more of how multiple people are trying to gather requirements. I'm assuming it's, if I talk about say a waterfall methodology where basically for next 3 months or say certain timelines are given to you, that you have to work on those requirements, document them so that later on step by step development team can take over. So yes, being a team player is very important. And when we talk about negotiation skills, I I would I would try to explain it with a case study. Suppose you are given 3 months time as a team of say 5 BAs to work on a project and you have to gather requirements. So you plan your 3 months time along with your team. You divide your work. Every BA will take up their own say part in the entire requirement and they'll start working on those requirements. However, in a typical project scenario, it might happen uh, that somebody who's a stakeholder, he'll come and say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I would like you to add this to the business requirement because my boss feels this is to be delivered, and while we are, suppose while gathering requirements, there were 100 reports you wanted to generate through a system. So he says, no, my boss is saying this report is also important and you should push in, and so that it will bring a lot of benefits. So as a business analyst, when I talk about negotiation and consensus building, see, it's very important because stakeholders would try to push in uh, what they know or what their specific personal requirements are related to project. So they'll try to push in those requirements also. But as a business analyst, you need to negotiate and tell them that, so when you're working on this project and the business needs, your report might not be the best fit for the business requirements. So I would say we can later on work on these reports, or probably you can give end user customization in your project so that these reports could be handled. So I'm trying to give an example where basically stakeholders try to push in a lot of requirements which they want, and when you're working as a team you need to filter it out with what your business requirements and organization goals are and to achieve them. I hope that answer your questions. And to the solution delivery part which you said, it's not always important to provide solutions. Business analyst can happily gather requirement, document them, and he can move to other projects. It totally depends on your project scenario and situations you're working on. So it could differ. And I see there was a question from Meghna. BA should
Thank you.
have, yeah, you're welcome. BA should have excellent communication skills, investigative, details oriented. Yeah. So when Meghna is asking about excellent communication skills and investigation in detail, see, you don't, please don't mind when I go light on certain topics. When we talk about investigation, basically my experience has been business analyst should be good at researching topics. When you're searching for any solution, you should research a lot. When you're working on any application or any new requirements, as a BA, you should do your homework. And while you are doing your homework, it is very important to research about it, because not every time people are going to tell you what they want. Because it's a popular saying, when people talk about that I want, say, to build a bridge, they will never tell you that what they want to cross. Maybe they want a bridge over a road or a river, but when stakeholders talk, they want a bridge. And when you speak to different stakeholders, one would come and say, I want a bridge where I can fly, where I can jump, so your requirements can go haywire. So as a business analyst, you should first understand what is coming from business, and then analyze what would be the best solution, and then convince stakeholders with your negotiation skills that yes, this would be a best solution, best fit, and various stakeholders should agree to it. That is where we talk about getting sign off from your business teams. When you document those requirements, every stakeholder will give a sign off on them, and then only it is accepted by all. And Dipali mentioned that on chat, a BA should be a good listener. Yes, absolutely. Uh, until unless you listen to things and understand what requirements are, probably if you go by perception, you will go in different direction. So you should always listen first, try to understand, research, and then based on your experience or on your skill set, you basically differentiate what would be the best solution for it. And when you are making those functional specification documents, there you point out each and every task, user stories, or say individual development needs carefully. And when we talk about technical specification documents, not always a business analyst has to prepare it. Only when, see, as I said, business analyst is a very flexible role. So many people play a role of a techno-functional business analyst. In those scenarios, business analysts may prepare technical specification document, but not always. Business analyst primary would be a functional guy who would prepare functional documents, and then with help of other technical team members, a system analyst primarily will prepare, in an ideal scenario, the technical specification document. So any other questions from anyone, or would like to discuss on any particular aspect of business analyst? Because see, when we are talking about this training, the most important part is to understand what are different skill set. So it would be good if we discuss all thoughts or whatever suggestions you have in your mind. We can share and discuss. It would help each one of us to achieve our goals to become a good business analyst. Okay, so we talk more in detail and what skill set. When we talk about differentiating between project manager and business analyst, both are working towards one goal. But yes, project manager has to see the big picture about how project is getting implemented. But business analyst has to be detail oriented. And uh, as Dipali mentioned, he has to be a good listener, listen to people, what people are saying. SMEs, subject matter expert, are primarily the guys who are working on one project for longer time or who are very experienced and they know in and out of their operation or system where they work on. So you primarily work closely with SMEs. So with SMEs, you try to take requirements and what would be the best solution. SME would be the guy who can help you while performing all your business analyst tasks. Then project manager would break down, work breakdown structure is one of the most important part for a project manager where basically he'll break down one particular task or work among his team members. And what business analyst would work in that in every task, which requirement is to be performed. So basically when work is broken down into pieces for a project, business analyst would gather requirements for individual tasks. You can call it user stories, you can call it functional requirements, or these are various jargons used for business needs when you deliver. And this is one of the popular saying: if you have a strong experienced project manager and a business analyst, it guarantees a success, because in my opinion, these are two pillars on which a project stands, and if one doesn't work well with the other, then your project may go into different direction. But if you have right guidance from the project manager and right requirements captured by business analysts, there are very less chances of any project to fail, and you'll be working towards right direction. So now we'll try to discuss more about the skill set of a business analyst, what a BA and a project manager does, how they are similar in nature. Now we'll talk about more about software development lifecycle, because end of the day, when we are talking about being a business analyst, this is where we would be working in different stages of software development life cycle. Anybody would like to share their experience while working in a software development lifecycle or different phases of it to see? This would give you a brief about what software development lifecycle would be, defining the project scope, specify baseline, build project, and deliver product to customer. So looking at this diagram, maybe this would help you. Anybody would like to share their experience while working on software development lifecycle, or any of the phases of software development cycle you have worked on earlier? Or I should pick names to talk about more, because if I remember, Dipali, you had worked on projects earlier. So Dipali or somebody else would like to talk about software development cycle and their understanding about it.
Yes, let's take the example of City Group where I worked. So
Yeah.
I came in there was already actually a team working on the project initiation. So my goal was basically for the understanding what the is as of the business is, and also how to gather all the requirements. So I created some templates, and there was interview sessions, and based on those, we created some data flow diagrams, and there were some functional diagrams also, which we worked upon closely with the end users. And then there was the initiation of the project manager involved, who would actually give us the sign off that, if this is feasible enough or not. And then from there, the development team took over the project.
Yeah, thank you. So the scenario which you explained, probably, as you said, initiation, a different team was involved, and if I understood correctly, you were moreover involved in the designing space of designing part of the project, where you were gathering those requirements and the flow diagrams, and basically the design phase of the project you worked on, correct?
Correct, correct.
And if I say the next level, when it goes into development or the build product process, so were you also communicating with the development team about those requirements and designs which you had made as a business analyst?
No, I was not. Partially, yes, but not completely, since the project requirement had, like, the functional group was a separate team, the development was a different team, and testing was a different team. So we were partially connected in terms of communication, but not actually doing all the phases.
Right. So just correct me if I'm wrong. See, Citigroup being a very large-scale brand, and you were working on a big project. So in a typical big project, initiation team would be different. There would be a different set of people who will define those project scope. Then a group of BAs will work on those requirement specification and design. Then probably some outsourcing team or in a different region with Citigroup only, they'll be developing it. And maybe in other part of the world there would be a different team who will be testing it, and finally
Right.
when the product is delivered. Yes, so this is a typical example of a very large scale project where budget is huge, project duration is probably say 1 to 2 years, and where you develop continuously and you break down your project requirements into, I would say, a waterfall model. Or
Right.
at team level also you can define different methodologies, but waterfall model you divide those things that yes, in a release cycle or a maintenance cycle of every 3 to 6 months, you would try to X number of requirements would be delivered to the end customer. So like uh, like like we talked about a large scale project, when you say about different phases of software development cycle, a BA could be involved in every cycle. He will have his own responsibilities and roles he'll play in different life cycle. We'll try to discuss more in detail about each and every stages of software development cycle where a BA works and what his role would be. To start with, project initiation, where you do requirement analysis. So basically when you talk to stakeholders, you try to gather requirements. Elicitation is different elicitation techniques you use to gather requirements. Validating those requirements, which is very important, because until unless you validate those requirements, maybe those requirements might not be approved. It's very important what you gather requirement to get your approvals with your stakeholders, then break it into specifications, and once those specification goes for, then you verify whether the requirements being captured are correct or not. So requirement analysis is the first phase where on a higher level you do, in many cases you will also do cost benefit analysis, because it is very important to prioritize your requirements and how you would step by step take those requirements. So we'll talk about these details in our later sessions also. However, yeah, requirement analysis is one part where a BA would work. And deliverables, if I talk about what deliverables a BA would give in this phase, would be more about functional specification document, software specification document, user requirement document, and it could be one document which will have all. So basically, totally depending on your project needs and budget. And generally, every project will have their own templates for preparing functional specification document, or they might call it with different names, but uh, totally depending on your project scenario, it could be different documents or one document where you're preparing and describing each and everything. So we'll move ahead to role of a BA. As we said, gathering requirements. It could be through various elicitation techniques, maybe workshops, interviews, observation, document analysis, sorry, yeah. And in many scenarios, in past I've worked in many projects when, as a business analyst, you join a project where there are no stakeholders or legacy systems are there. Nobody knows what those project requirements are. They will just dump you 7 to 8 documents. They'll say these are the systems which are in place and manuals. Then you gather requirement on that. So there, the documentation analysis skills comes in, where you basically don't have stakeholders to explain you existing scenarios. So you go through training manuals and documentation of existing system. And as people explain, as is process is how things are currently working. It is very important to understand that. And so with a lot of document, you go through those documents, find understanding those applications, you analyze, and then you start gathering those requirements that on a new system, what are the areas you can improve. And with your analysis skills, you need to identify what areas not only could be improved, would also bring in business value, or I would say return on investment. When we talk about, as a business analyst, you have been hired, so with every project it's very important to identify what benefits, if possible, not always there would be monetary benefits, but yes, certain benefits should be achieved through your analysis. So document analysis is also important. Anyone have any questions till now, or any part they would like to discuss in detail?
I have a very quick request. Could you please specify more the difference between verification and validation?
Yes. See, when we talk about verification, suppose you have gathered those requirements and now you want to verify whether what your understanding of a as-is process is, you're correct or not. So generally you would approach, in a typical scenario, approach an SME to look into these requirements, what you have gathered, whether to verify whether they are correct or not. And when we talk about validation, validation could be a software validation. It could also be a business validation. And if I say, suppose while you're building a system, or a very common example, I would say, suppose you're gathering requirements for an ATM machine, and certain validation is a business rule where it says if you enter your password incorrectly more than 3 times, it should block your card. So these are kind of validations, but verification would be more on those lines. When you say for an ATM machine, if you're gathering requirement, you would say once I enter the card, I should only proceed ahead once I enter my PIN number correctly, and I should be able to perform following tasks: withdrawal, balance inquiry, account statements. So these are the points and say requirements where you would seek verification, and validation would be those points where you would try to seek a kind of requirement on a solution point of view, what validations you want to put in your final solution and what you're trying to achieve. I hope that answers your question, or you would like more in detail.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and
It answered the question.
yeah, thank you. And prioritizing requirements is also important, because when you speak to stakeholders, many times you maybe your development team would say, okay, out of these 10, I would try to implement these first, because those are quick to go solutions. So probably they'll try to push in, we'll do this first. But as a business analyst, you need to analyze as business needs, which would bring in more benefits, and prioritize those requirements, and also keep stakeholder aware of it, that yes, these are prioritized requirements. Once you have approvals and say you have buy-in from stakeholders on those prioritized requirements, you can go ahead and pass it on. Design phase, this is again how a typical business analyst would work in design document, technical design document. If it's available, it's okay. Otherwise, you'll probably work on functional design document. So as I said, in this scenario also, you will prepare those documentation. Traceability matrix is again an important point. It's very important for a business analyst to trace those requirements. If you have captured those 10 requirements, it might not be possible that every requirement would move from one phase to another in same time frame. Probably say when you start a project, one requirement after 2 weeks would move into development or say in testing phase, but probably on certain requirements would still gather those requirements. So it is very important to trace those requirements. You should have a traceability matrix where you note down those say 10 20 requirements where you're working on and what is the current state of it. And it is also important from the reporting perspective because then you report it back to all stakeholders about those things. Development phase, as they say, this is the phase where developers take the charge. All your hard work, all requirement analysis, what you have done, that goes in. And then now you basically clarify doubts and business clarification which comes from your development team there with your experience or best practices. You share your knowledge with your development team and also seek clarification from your business users. Agile project, yeah, business analyst role writer during this phase. In small teams, BA is asked to clarify requirements. Or an agile project, the BA will be asked to review prototypes. Prototypes are nothing but say ready solutions or what your development team is working on it, and you can also prototype through some diagrams or graphical representations. We'll discuss more in detail in our future sessions, and there you'll get more clarity on these part. However, on a higher level development phase, developers take charge. You clarify whatever doubts they have. Testing phase, again, the testers would take charge here. BA would be more of a support function here where he try to review test scripts and maybe help testers to write those test cases, and you see whether your project requirements are being met or not. As I said, reviewing test script and involved in defect prioritization, because see, when you're testing a software solution, lots of defects are bound to come, and how then you prioritize those defects, what is to be delivered, that you capture here. Release and maintenance is basically delivering your final product, your project software application with your all test report. You go live and you pass it on to the end users. So this is how different phases of software development cycle where a BA works. And any questions till now you have about how a BA works in different stages of software development cycle? In our future sessions, we'll talk more in detail, and I'll just share the plan. Before that, we talk about our course content, what we'll cover in our future session. But before that, anybody has any question on the session we had or any doubts they want to clarify? So if you see in today's session, we talk more about projects, role of a project manager, business analyst, how they are related, and what goals primarily in software development cycle the BA would seek to achieve. Any questions from anybody? Then probably we can talk about the course content. I would like to know the feedback related to the discussion we had, or inputs, what you would like to see or hear more about in future sessions. Any feedback for me or for the audience? We'll be doing a lot of assignments. I'll make sure everybody has a lot of homework and assignments they do in after every session, because I feel until unless you practice, because business analysis is more of a practice than a learning. unless you practice those skills, probably you would not excel in that role. So, any questions? So, I see not many questions coming. You can stop me anytime if you have any questions. But see, these are the content of our trainings. In second session, we'll talk more about the practice of a business analyst. Then in third session, we'll discuss more about software development cycle, various methodologies, waterfall model, iterative and incremental approach, what we call Scrum, many times more in details, how they work, enterprise analysis, one of the key knowledge areas for a business analyst, then landscape of requirements, and moving ahead, I would also give you assignments of case studies where basically you'll prepare functional documents, and I'll make sure you get the real-time scenarios, and when you're preparing those functional documents, I'll be reviewing them. I'll pass on my comments and whatever I have through my experience. And yeah, these are the course content and how what my expectations from each one of you is to be more interactive, ask me more questions, because see, if I'm going fast, I'm going slow, I would not come to know unless you tell me. So I would request, my request is, please stop me whenever you can if you want to discuss certain topics more in details. We have, I would say, quite good audience in terms of participants coming from various backgrounds, people who have also worked as a business analyst in past. So when we talk about business analysis and about these topics more in detail, it would help each one of us, and I'll make sure I'll share more details and more examples related to these. And moving ahead, about MindsMap, we have a huge knowledge base where basically you can find a lot of study material, a lot of repositories and knowledge. You can coordinate with the training coordinator for that. And just to show you, I'll try to, yeah, you can go to mindsmap.com under enrollment. So this is repository where you'll find all your presentations, documents, and if you want to prepare for the next session, you can download and access these not download, you can access these presentations, and in detail you can be better prepared for future sessions. So mindsmap.com enrollment, it takes some time once you access it initially. And I would request everybody to share their name and email ID in the chat window. That is for my records. So if in the meantime, if everybody can share name and email addresses in the chat window, that would be helpful. And I would try to show you the knowledge center and repository which we have. Yeah, I would still wait for others to respond. I don't have email IDs of all. Yeah. And as you can see, we are recording each and every session. So in future, if you miss any session due to certain reasons, you can always go back to those recorded session, contact the training coordinator. They'll share these recorded sessions so you don't miss anything, and you can go ahead with that. And yeah, this is the repository where you have a lot of interview questions, different presentations on different skills, and a lot of reading material which would help you as a business analyst, because it is very important for you guys to read a lot when we talk about business analysis, and then try to develop those skills. And happily we would discuss things in detail in our future sessions. So I'll just wait for some more time for others to share their name and email addresses. I see many have provided. So I'll stop the recording for now, and we'll put this recording in our repository. So anybody wants to access it, they can. And all our future sessions would also be recorded. Arush, you have a question about interview preparation sessions. Yes, we'll try to conduct mock interviews, and there we'll try to basically prepare you for current industry trends and in current questions which a business analyst should know, and we'll discuss those points in our future sessions surely, because end of the day, if I'm a business analyst and if I understand needs of my trainees, it's end of the day you should get better job, good paid jobs. That is my objective. So yes, we will prepare with mock interview sessions. Session timings would remain same, and you can contact the training coordinator. She'll give you the entire training plan and timings. It will be 8 p.m. EST, and if you're from different time zone, please contact the training coordinator. I'll share the phone number and the email ID with you all. info@mindsmapped.com, and the phone number is 385-237-9777. So anybody would like to contact the training coordinator, you can. Yeah, anybody has any question?
Yeah, I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
About the assignment now for today lecture has to be submitted tomorrow?
See, today being the demo class, I would say just read through the documents and repositories what we have, so that you have more questions. And at very basic level, I would like to request each one of you just search more about business analyst, requirement analyst, functional analyst, what roles and responsibilities these roles do. So that will give you an understanding of various tasks performed by a business analyst. However, if I say these all roles perform similar roles and responsibilities in various projects, but this will give you an idea. So what you can do, you can note down 3 to 4 roles, and you can go to those job portals and see their job description and what roles and responsibilities a business analyst performs. 1, 2, requirement analyst. 3, functional analyst. So just prepare a Word document about these 3 roles, what roles and responsibilities they perform. We'll start it light. Once you document these things and you have an understanding what kind of roles and responsibilities each one of roles perform, then in detail from session 2, we'll talk more about assignments and more rigorous assignment, where probably I'll review each one of your assignments and I'll reply back.
Okay, excuse me, for the first assignment, this assignment you just asked us, should we send it to you, email it to you or something?
Yes, you can email the assignment. First you prepare the Word document and get in touch with training coordinator. She'll help you with all our email IDs. However, you can email me on batrainer@outlook.com. or you can also email your assignment at info@mindsmap.com. So just
Okay.
get in touch with training coordinator, because she will help you with all those repositories which would help you in future assignments also. So my focus for first day would be prepare those Word documents, and from session 2 we'll do a lot of assignments.
Okay.
Any other questions from anybody?